Hello everybody. My name is Volker Friedrich. I'm the Managing Director of GBP International, and we would like to present our newsletter for May 2020 in this new video format and with an audio presentation. I hope you enjoy it, and let's dive into our agenda. On top of basically every agenda these days is Corona. I'd like to give you an update what is happening these days, mid-May in Asia, and I'd like to share a little bit of an outlook on what is happening after the Corona crisis and whether we are entering into a post-globalization order. I'd like to share with you some thoughts on our new setup with Asian insiders, a team of independent experts from 9 different countries throughout Asia Pacific. Blue Number is our partner organization, associated companies, so to say, with a focus on sustainability and measuring data. A very interesting project we are executing is for our client in Malaysia. They are able to produce pulp and paper from the waste product of all the huge palm oil plantations called empty fruit bunches. China, it's apart from the Corona, the big topic on most of the agendas. We'd like to have a little bit of a rundown where China is heading, especially in relation to the US, and what is the position of Europe. I do a few seminars these days, webinars to be precise, a little bit of an update and outlook, and last but not least, always point number 8 in our newsletter, our book recommendation of the month. The countries in Asia are at the center of all the discussion about Corona, especially because it started in China. And if you are looking at the development curve, China seems to be ahead of the curve, and in most places in China, business is already running not back to normal, but I would say 80 to 90%. In the Southeast Asian countries, we have a mixed picture. We have very few cases and very little disturbances in Cambodia, in Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, even though you can say not so many tests are going on there. But I would say the Mekong countries are less affected than, for instance, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Singapore. So a look into Korea, Japan also shows you that now they are fighting and battling with the second curve already. Singapore saw an outbreak after they believed they had everything under control in one of the housing developments where foreign workers were staying. So it's really a country by country analysis. The matter of the fact is that the whole economy is disturbed massively. We will see negative GDP growth quarter on quarter in the region of 10 to 15% in most of the countries. Tourism is at a standstill. Airports, airlines, hotels, bars and restaurants, like anywhere else in the world, they are suffering badly. So the link on ASEAN Briefing will give you the detailed numbers for each and every country if you're interested in it. And let's hope for the best. Corona is definitely a once-in-a-generation event, much more severe than all the other crises we have seen since we are covering Asia. This is more than 23, 24 years now. Financial crisis in 2007, 2008, the first Asian financial crisis in 1997. We have seen SARS, swine flu, but this is topping it all. We can only say very little visibility. Fasten your seatbelt. Things will move forward progressively, and we need to watch week by week, more or less. These days, we see a lot of headlines asking whether or not Corona will be the end of globalization as we know it. And the discussion basically started with all the hiccups and shortages in medical equipment, starting from face masks and ventilators, where suddenly developed countries discovered that they are depending on a country such as China. And there was an outcry that there was not enough production capacity for these vital equipment in times of crisis. So it was a quick political win to say, okay, from now on we are going to manufacture everything in our own country to be prepared for the next crisis. And we had heard discussions where suddenly car manufacturers were asked to produce ventilators. If you are knowledgeable a little bit about international economics, you are thinking and scratching your head, what would the old David Ricardo have to say to this, who believed in international distribution of work and comparative advantages. Our view, or my view here, is nobody can look into the crystal ball and the future is uncertain, but what is also certain in my view is that the international supply chain is a very complex structure and it will not be disrupted in such a way that it will disappear and that each and every country will start to produce for their own consumption. We will have international trade, there will be a dip and maybe even a huge dip in the trade numbers, but all the countries and all the players, they have localized so much that we are not only looking into a factory in Asia which is producing at a cheaper cost in order to re-import the product to Europe. These companies, they are local players. They have local employees, they have local management, they have a local supply chain on top of their international supply chain, and they also are responsible players in their specific country of operation. So all these stakeholders in globalization, they have a huge interest to go back to normal because it was a system which was working more or less well with all the shortcomings we know and we can discuss at any time. But the alternative scenario will be a completely different world. And the transaction cost to go back to the old days where you have only very little international trade is just too high. So it will take some time to recover. You have to shake yourself a little bit and say, okay, what are the lessons learned and what can we do better in future? But globalization will continue as very simply there are just millions and millions of players and there is nobody to call who will answer and say, okay, we are going to stop it. So it's a system which is in itself stable in my view, and we are going to optimize it. We need to adjust and modify it here and there where we do know of the shortcomings. But I'm a very big promoter of international fair trade, and this is going to continue in my view. A very detailed article, we have given the link here in the Foreign Policy magazine. You just Google end of globalization, you will find lots of opinions there, and our view is very positive and we are optimistic that trade and globalization will continue for the benefit of all the stakeholders. With Asian Insiders, we have built a new marketing platform where we are combining the expertise of 10 senior Asian experts who are living in 10 different Asian countries from all across India to Thailand to Hong Kong to Korea to Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam and Philippines. And it's a very interesting group of competence, so to say, and we would like to bundle our knowledge here for the benefit of our clients, mainly from Europe, who need expert advice on specific industries in a number of specific countries. So have a look at the website. It's very much a digital platform. We are positioning ourselves with video blogs, with podcasts, with case studies and ebooks on various industries. We have started with a very comprehensive book on solar energy. You just register and you can get a free copy here under the website of Asian Insiders. Very much privileged and happy to be part of that team, and I look forward to a fruitful cooperation. Blue Number is a company which is able to identify, enable, and empower individuals anywhere in the world, and we will help businesses from the Western world to trace their supply chain, verify and analyze all the corresponding data that goes with the supply chain, and we generate evidence and support especially sustainability claims. So Blue Number is a platform which is generating data, which is making data available and visible and traceable to companies who need to prove and demonstrate their sustainability claims. I'm myself a member of the board of directors there. We are also a small shareholder in the company, and it's a very interesting and fruitful partnership. We have been to the World Economic Forum in Davos earlier this year together with the CEO of Blue Number, and we are also here looking forward to a very fruitful and interesting cooperation. Have a look at the website, quite comprehensive stuff and interesting developments, including a new mobile app being launched just now as we speak, so to say. So interesting food for thought. A small case study I'd like to present to you from one of our projects where we are supporting a Malaysian client who is building pulp and paper from waste, basically. The waste in this case is the empty fruit bunch, which is lying around every year on the palm oil plantations. And our customer has developed a process where you collect the waste, you treat it and you process it, and you are able to generate pulp and paper from a more or less priceless or cheap raw material, which is basically growing every year on the palm oil plantations. Very interesting. We have received very positive feedback from potential investors and technology partners, or also traders, and we will continue to report about that project for you, because it's a very unique setup with potential investment shareholding structures, but also the sustainability aspect of palm oil plantations is also one of importance here, because the political discussion about the palm oil estates and their negative impact the EU claims they have is part of the political discussion, especially between Indonesia, Malaysia and the European Union in relation to the free trade agreements, which are still not resolved, partly because of that very palm oil issue. The US-China conflict on trade issues and other areas of potential conflict, I'm only mentioning the South China Sea island conflict, is in the news basically again every day. It all started with a war on tariffs and the US wanting to renegotiate a trade deal. So now we have a kind of a preliminary trade deal being signed, but due to the corona situation, it's all a little bit in the air whether or not it's going to be signed and executed. So all this is not really positive for everybody involved in Asian trade and investment, because it is raising uncertainty. We are seeing more PR critics on the Belt and Road project. We see Donald Trump using, or you may say misusing, the potential conflict for his re-election campaign. So we would rather like to see two friendly people sitting on the negotiation table, having a tea and friendly talking about issues you can have different opinions about. but the way this is handled, nobody is really happy. And there is one rule in Asia, or specifically in China, which you need to know, is don't make your counterpart losing face. And we are having now some hardliners in the White House advising Donald Trump, and it's a really an uncertain outcome. And we don't know what is going to happen. So we are a keen observer, we are reading a lot about it, opinion pieces, and it's very hard to predict. But what we do see is that if we look at the bottom line today, we see China winning. China is ahead of the corona curve. The US is still fighting against corona. China is winning the PR war. Just recently we had a survey in Italy. People were asked, who do you like more, Germany or China? And the majority voted for China because they heard or they read that China is sending medical equipment as aid, as a donation. Whereas Germany, in the beginning and in the panicking of the crisis, they said we have to use our equipment for ourselves, and they even stopped some supplies to Italy. So these are little short stories which are impacting the perception. And as you know, social media, Facebook, and all the other media we can easily access these days, they shape the opinion of the world. And we never know whether it's true or not what is written. So it's a kind of a messy situation, and I really wish we could all calm down a little bit, take stock, and kind of restart this whole cooperation scenario. And we are all in this world together, and we should avoid to escalate the conflict any further. That is bottom line in my view. Communication is key in times of limited or restricted traveling and personal meetings. So GBP is also giving seminars, webinars together with our friends and partners. We are doing this with the chamber networks all across Asia. We are giving radio talks, Facebook live talks on various subjects of general interest related to Asia, Europe, and all these webinars, YouTube videos you can consume on our website. The link is here on the bottom, and it's an interesting experience, but I have to be honest with you, nothing replaces a good dinner with a friend over a bottle of wine. Last but not least, our book recommendation, in line with the topic of US-Asia, is the new book by Professor Kishore Mahbubani from Singapore. Always interesting views, very balanced, interesting read. You can get it on Amazon. You can read the reviews there first, and we feel it's a very balanced and smart philosophical book, putting history into perspective. This is always very important in our view, that you are not looking at it, what is happening this year or last year, but what is the historical context we are all living in. So highly recommend it. And with this, I'd like to thank you for your attention. As usual, we have a lot of channels you can reach us, and we hope you are staying safe and well, and we are looking forward to meeting anybody of you in person very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.